Awesome. Hi, guys. It's Patty here, and I'm really excited to introduce you to my friend Lendsey, who recently finished the Candida Cleanse. Lendsey is somebody who is trained in Muay Thai boxing and is a fitness coach, and so I really was excited to share her perspective. So Lendsey, why don't you come on and talk a little bit about who you are, where you were before you learned about the cleanse, and what made you decide to do it, and then we'll continue from there.
Okay. So, we good now? So, my name is Lendsey, and I live in Huntsville, Alabama. And I could best describe my life before the cleanse as working hard at working really hard. Seriously. A day in my life is like, I'm up at 6, I'm either running or lifting weights. I work a full-time job where I'm active, and then I go train or I'm coaching, and it doesn't stop until 8, 9 o'clock at night. So you would expect to be tired, right? But I was feeling a kind of tired that made me think maybe my time was over. Like maybe athletics wasn't for me anymore. Maybe, you know, I needed to refocus my life energy on something less demanding. And that depressed me a lot because that's who I am. I mean, that's what I do. And, you know, so I was really sad. I was really bummed out. And so I think I was watching you in a broadcast and you were talking about sugar. And I was like, sugar. Yeah, that's a problem. So I started cutting that out and doing probiotics. And I started feeling better. But then I would relapse into like a sugar frenzy and eat like, I don't know, cookies or, you know, a pint of ice cream or something crazy. And then I would go back through this cycle of like fatigue and just stomach problems, ear infections, nasal congestion, you know, and just anxiety and depression. Yeah.
Wow. So, wow, I didn't realize that you were questioning whether or not like you could continue on the path of your fitness path. It's so part of who you are in your life from what I've heard you talk about. So I didn't even know that. So thanks. Wow, thanks for sharing that. So then, okay, so then tell us what you thought about, like, did you even know anything about Candida at that point?
I didn't even know what Candida was. I wasn't even sure Candida was a real thing. You know, I'm kind of a skeptical person. I think the way I grew up in life sort of taught me to always mistrust first, like just assume the worst about people, right? Which is terrible. That's a terrible way to live. But actually, it's funny. I was going through some notebooks today, and I came across my research. I went and did my own research after I talked to you about it, just to see, you know, what is this really about? And I found the symptoms list. Can I read this to you real quick?
Yeah.
Just how much. Okay, so out of 20 things, maybe, I have about 15 of them marked as things that I was dealing with every day. So sugar and alcohol, carb cravings, anxiety, depression, fatigue, vaginitis, foggy thinking, acne, sinus inflammation, low sex drive. That's a bummer. We don't need any of that, right? Earaches, all of that every day.
Wow. I think this is really important, and the reason why I was really happy that you took, you know, went by what I thought could be something really freaking epic for you in your line of work and everything. I was really excited when you, after a few weeks, you were like, I'll think about it, I don't know. And you were like, a few weeks went by and you were like, I think I want to try it. But I was really excited because I think there are a lot of people out there who have no idea that fungus or candida is affecting their health and affecting their performance levels just in general. Because, you know, a lot of people come into the group and they're really sick, and it's kind of obvious something's wrong with them. But what you're talking about is kind of like also what I felt in my late 20s, in my early, like before the crisis really hit for me. And I was just like, oh, I'm just getting old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, things just aren't as good anymore. I'm just not performing as well anymore. And you think it's part of you. So now tell us your experience of the cleanse, like what you started to experience, and how did you prepare before, and like just what did you experience coming from somebody who is so in your body with fitness too? Like explain what that journey was like.
Okay. So I knew that it was going to take a few weeks to get the cleanse. So I used that time to start adapting my body to the GAPS diet, because there were some things that were a bit unfamiliar to me, but there were other things that I do anyway. I eat a lot of clean proteins and vegetables, but I was eating a lot of carbs that I didn't understand were feeding the candida. So cutting all of that out, the sugar, the grains. And at first it was hard. I got a really bad headache like my first week, just cutting back foods. But then what happened is that my skin started to change. Like the tone of my skin looked fresher, and I started having more regular bowel movements. And I upped my probiotics too. So once I started feeling pretty good, and then when I started taking the cleanse, like the first week was a little rough. The first week was kind of like, oh, woo, something's happening. I would go through like phases of having like hot flashes, and then I would itch, and then I'd get sweaty. And then I would get more hot flashes and itch and get sweaty. And I noticed that there was a concentrated ache in places where I had injuries. So I had a neck injury, a shoulder injury, and a knee injury that bothered me all the time when I'm running, when I'm training. And I felt it a lot there. And, overall fatigue. So that was the first half. The second half, it was like somebody just lifted this veil off of me, and I was like, excuse my language, but fuck yeah. Like I was just ready to like tear something up. I don't know, I felt like super energetic, and I felt like what I was eating was actually doing its job. Like food was getting into my body. It was getting nutrients. And and of course when you're doing the 5 days on, it's like what I think is the symptoms that I had from Candida would just, what I said once, go in Hulk mode. They would get all, the earaches, the congestion and all that stuff would get worse in the first few days, and then it would go away. So it was totally doable. It was very manageable. I like the food. I love the bone broths. Love that. Every day. I still do it every day. But what happened when I was done, I went right back to training. I added coaching back to my schedule, like doubled my coaching. I'm back up running every day and lifting weights. And here's two things. My muscles don't hurt when I'm done, and nothing aches anymore. My joints, my neck, everything's fine. Like I feel like I've like got 5, 6, 7 years back of my life. It's crazy. Like really.
Amazing. The first time that I did the cleanse back in 2013, we had a group of us. There were 5 of us who did the cleanse at the same time. And we all noticed there was like a pattern of places where we had had pain in our joints or past injuries. One guy, he had previously been in a really severe car accident. So he was feeling it in all of the places where he had been really banged up by this accident, had broken things. And so I have a theory that when we have had injuries, I think one, candida and fungal infection and biofilm buildup in places can contribute to the tearing of the injury to begin with, but then the candida kind of prevents the injury from healing. Or if you get injured, the candida goes to that vulnerable place and like gets into there. That's what it seems like, something like that. It seems to be a pattern with all the people that we've worked with now. So
that's very interesting.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I've been thinking about that, and sometimes when you have an injury, blood rushes to that area, and I think if candy is already in your bloodstream, if it's already in your system, it makes sense that it would, it might collect more in an area where you've been injured.
I think one, it could be attracted to any cells that have died, and any scar tissue, dead tissue, because it's fungal candida is actually meant to digest us when we die. Like after, like in nature, if humans didn't like have all these extravagant ways of like how to bury people, and you're just in nature like an animal and you die like an animal, then it's like fungus just starts to go to work and digests it, breaks it down, gives it back to the earth. So that's kind of what happens when you have a fungal infection, and it's basically consuming all the toxins and the sugars, but then in itself it's an organism. So then when it gets strong, then it's also demanding those things. So which could lead to
Yeah.
the next question is, how do you feel now versus before with like your cravings, or just how your relationship to food and sugars and carbs and whatnot?
It's so much better. I mean, obviously it's like 10 times better than it was. That cycle of falling back into sugar things, I don't even look at that stuff like food anymore. Like I see cookies sitting around and people bring cake to work, or when I'm walking through like Whole Foods in the fresh baked section, I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't attract my attention, which is amazing because that's never happened to me before. Like I've always had a sweet tooth. Like seriously, so it's kind of new, but I love it because the food I eat now is actually serving a purpose in my body. And being an athlete, it's important, you know, it's bang for the buck. I need nutrition. I need food with high nutritional value that's going to give my body energy. So it's now I feel like I don't work hard to work hard. Like I was out running, and I wanted to share this with you. So I used to run a lot, and I would get so hot and like my body would just feel overwhelmed just trying to breathe, and I'd be so congested, and my body would give out before my legs, right? And so I went running 2 days ago, and I was just like fucking running. I was running up hills, I was sprinting up stairs, I was going around the neighborhood and doing it again. People were looking at me like, damn. And my legs gave out before my lungs did. And my body felt so clean and like so open, like oxygen was getting everywhere it needed to. I felt powerful, you know, it was amazing.
Wow. And you really felt this like by the time you were halfway through the cleanse, everything just started to like open up. And now how long's it been? When did you finish?
I finished the cleanse at the end of July, and I immediately went on vacation. And I think I may have done a little damage to my stomach, you know, because I think I ate like a gluten-free pizza with my family. It was, you know, I don't know. It was just one of those situations. I was there and there weren't a lot of choices, and I was like, screw it. And I think there was probably something else in there that body wasn't ready for. So there was a couple of days where I felt a little rough, you know, and this is how I know now. If I eat something that my body is not able to digest or process well, immediately, like within 30 minutes, all of this is inflamed and my ears get gooey. It's gross, but that's where it gets me.
Yeah, I get it in the eyes. I feel it too. It's like it's in the mucous membrane, so but it's also a good sign that your gut is actually in decent shape, because if your gut is really still like thrashed, which for me for like a whole year after my first Candida cleanser, if I ate something that really was not good for my gut, it would bring back, I would get the reinfection and I would feel it in like my joints big time, because it was like immediately going back into my bloodstream and then going right back to like all the places that weren't fully healed yet. And so there are certain things that I noticed, and that's why I ended up doing GAPS way more strict after my first Candida cleanser. And actually doing that just takes it all down, takes the inflammation down, and your immune system is much stronger, so you can usually just fight it, whatever it is, and get back to like a good place. But I think it's interesting to hear, you know, if you can share with us what you've been learning since finishing the cleanse with the foods and what it's teaching you about your body or your gut and whatnot.
I feel like my skin is like the last line of defense. I'm still struggling with acne and skin things, but not as bad. Where I used to get acne like on everywhere, you know, my chest and my back, that's gone away, but my skin, my face and my neck is still kind of an issue. That's sensitive. So if I eat something, it takes 3 or 4 days but I'm starting to notice a pattern now. The thing that'll get here within 30, 40 minutes shows up a few days later in my skin. So that's been kind of a bummer, but my plan is to redo the cleanse after the holidays and get a little deeper in and see if I can eliminate further. But dairy's a no-go. Dairy's a no-go. Any kind of flour, gluten, nope, can't, that just doesn't process well. Sugar, obviously. But I'm having a lot of luck with some fruits like melon, strawberries, and blueberries, raspberries. All of that processes really well. Corn doesn't seem to bother me too much.
Oh, that's good. I think some of the like other grains and dairy, that could be some indication of like the gut stuff. Because now I was the same right after, but today, which it's been 4 years, but today I can eat dairy and I don't have crazy reactions. I'll have like little things, like I'll have like I'll notice just a change in skin brilliancy, you know, like just more, if I'm like eating super clean, it's like everything is just like really clean, clear. And then if I do eat like a lot of stuff over the course of time, at some point my body will be like, okay, time to push that out. So I do think that right after your cleanse, and especially after the first one, there's a process where you're continuing to detox. And actually what I noticed, because at that time I had some excess weight, and especially a belly that was always like, that I just had since I was like 16. And just kind of popped out when I was 16, and I could never get rid of this belly, never like fully been comfortable with my belly until now. I feel really good about my body now. But as my belly would shrink, I would break out, sometimes right around my belly, or I would almost like break out on my face, and like I would just intuitively be like, I know that's related to me just having lost another layer of this like old inflammation holding the old fat. And I would even have like spiritual stuff. I'd like have like memories of like all of like my victim wounded kind of patterns, and I don't know, just like have all these like sensations. And I felt like I was still detoxing for over a year, really even longer than that, like different layers. Even now with the liver stuff, I've been doing the milk thistle, and I'm having sensations and feelings, and all the tension in my neck that has been the most difficult to get all the way back to zero is like on its way. And I can really feel, it's like, wow, I'm the most like mobile, open, flexible, painless, no inflammation, amazing. So tell me, as you've been doing the cleanse, as you were doing the cleanse, what did people notice? Have people been noticing, and what are they saying to you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me what I've been doing. I dropped 15 pounds, and yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot of weight. I know. And most of it, I would say the first half came off probably like in the first 3 weeks, because I think it was a lot of water weight. My body was holding on to a ton of water, and I looked so fluffy. And I mean, I was peeing like crazy. That was the first thing. I think I even made some joke about it in the Facebook group, because it was just like, what is, I just had to stay by a bathroom because I was just peeing all day. It was weird. But you're just water weight.
Yeah.
But see, because I'm an athlete, I've always been in fairly good shape. You know what I mean? Like I can do sprint intervals for 3 miles. I can lift weights and then go practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu for 2 hours, and I'll be tired, but I'll be okay. So I've always had muscle and stamina, but you could not tell. You would never know by looking at me that I was like full on training all the time, because I always looked like squishy. In competition training, trying to cut weight was a bitch. Excuse my language, but that was the worst part of it. It didn't seem like it didn't matter what I did. I could not get rid of, a layer of fat that I needed to get rid of to compete. Now it's like everyone's like, hey, like you can see, my arms look cut. You can see my abs now, mostly. They're still a little squish.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I look, you can see the legs, my muscles and my legs popping out and everything.
So what do you feel now about the whole Candida thing as like a trainer, as somebody who's into fitness? Like when you now look into the world, like are you seeing things differently? Because I mean, I know I have had a huge like awakening, but what do you see? Like who do you think could benefit from this cleanse, like from your own experience?
A lot of people.
What's that?
Well, you know, I see people now differently. It's like I know people that I train with and people that I see at the gym, and I see them in there sweating and they're working so hard at working hard like I was. And I'm like, you might have candida, you know. But I talk about it because people ask me, but I talk about it because I'm really excited about the changes. You know, to actually get results from something is amazing. And there's so much crap out there being sold in the world. There's so much marketing and there's all these get skinny pills and all this shit that's terrible for you. It's terrible for you. So here's something that is in a holistic approach dealing with a healing journey. How would you describe it? You know, like a scheme, like here's this, take this and you can eat whatever you want and do whatever you want and you'll be skinny. I think that's BS. The Candida cleanse, it's a path. It's your path. It's a unique path, and it's a journey that each individual person has to go on. You know, and I'm much more comfortable with something that requires participation from me, my body, by being mindful of what I consume, because that's the problem. It's what we consume as a society that's causing so much unnecessary hardship. For me to be 30, and consider quitting what makes me happy, like, I'm getting emotional. It's just, I feel like there was this thing the whole time and I didn't see it. I was blind to it. And if I hadn't met you, if I hadn't had an opportunity, you know, I would maybe be doing something, you know, working in an office somewhere, doing a job that I hate, giving up on my dream. Life is too damn short. You know, and it's just something simple. You know, all you have to do is be proactive and in tune with yourself. You know, I'm getting all off track.
No, I think it's perfect. I think it's beautiful to hear like the honest reflection, because I mean, I know that you weren't having like a, you know, where you were in the did you have to go to the emergency room? Did you just say that earlier that you had to go to for anything?
There were
No.
There were some past things that I look at now and I understand that they were related to that they were Candida related incidents.
Oh.
If we don't mind going back a little bit.
No, I don't mind. Yeah, you could totally share.
Well, let's say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even 8, I was in a job that I really hated and it was very stressful. And I had a boss whose way of dealing with things was like, oh, relax, go drink. And everybody drank a lot. And so I got into an environment of consuming a lot more alcohol than I'm comfortable with. And there's a history of alcoholism in my family. So I noticed then, like now that I see everything, I'm looking back at it and I'm like, I think that's when my health really started to turn for the worse. UTIs, kidney infections. That's when all my joint problems started happening. I was in the chiropractor a few times, you know, out of training a lot because I was hurt. So I think, where was I going with that? What did I say when I started?
I think we were talking about, you know, it was me. I kind of led you off. Don't worry. You just move on. It's because, you know, I think with your story, it's like one of those stories of everything seems normal, right? We're just going about like your normal day. It wasn't like you were having such intense pain that you thought you were going to die, which happens to a lot of people who come to our group. They're in a place where they think that they're going to die. Honestly, there were moments in 2013 where I thought I was going to die. And and it's so intense. But the fact that you're doing this, even though everything seemed normal, and now you see the other side of the normal, and this is like the new normal. This is the real normal. This is the way that we're meant to live. Is, I believe we're meant to be able to like be that 115-year-old kung fu martial artist that I've seen on YouTube, who's like all white beard, but from neck down he looks like he's 40 and totally jacked and ripped. Or like the 90-year-old lady doing splits on Venice Boardwalk. That's what I've always seen. Like, what is it that they have? You know, I didn't know, because it didn't feel like that was going to be able to be available to me in my body. So I'm just really excited to share your perspective, because I think there's a lot of people out there who are being affected by it, and they have no idea.
Yeah.
And you don't even know that there's another way.
Mm-mm. It's awesome. It's exciting because it's like a renewal or a mini transformation. And and it's not just the physical stuff. I know, because I'm an athlete, I talk about that a lot, and that's really important to my life. But there was an element too of like a distracted, foggy brained, just absent-mindedness that I was fighting all the time. And I'm in a new phase in my life where I'm a budding entrepreneur, I'm coaching other people, I'm raising a family, I'm somebody's partner. I need my mind to be like focused. And
Yeah.
I was really struggling. Like, how many times I've missed important things with my daughter's school because I lose papers and I can't, it's like I couldn't think straight. I couldn't remember things that she told me, forget to write things down, miss important phone calls, forget to pay bills. You know, somebody asked me, something about yesterday? And I'm like, yesterday? I don't know. So that was a big change too. Now it's like, I wake up every day, I'm up at 6. I got my day set out. I know what I'm doing. I'm like jamming through the day. I'm singing, I'm dancing around, I'm talking to people, making phone calls. You know, I feel like I'm so alive and so alert. And my memory is a lot sharper than it was. So, and I didn't expect that, honestly, Patty. I was really focused on it, and I look kind of fat, and I shouldn't be fat because I work too damn hard to look fat. And I was really focused on the physical things. And along for the ride came like emotional and mental clarity, and something borderline spiritual for me. Maybe because that stuff is moving out of the way, and I feel it's easier to connect with myself. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Totally. It's, you know, it happened to me. It's happening to you. It's happened to a lot of people. People in the interviews talk about how much it's like you reconnect with yourself again, and you empower yourself, because now it doesn't feel like I'm at the mercy of all those cravings or the uncontrollable like food urges or the bloating. It's like there's like all the interference is gone, and it's like you get to be in the moment again. And I think that like how you feel about yourself. Oh, the last interview that I did with Jackie, she was like, I thought I was a miserable person. I was just like, why do people like me? How did I even get married? How did somebody even marry me? She was so cute, like so honest in her thing. And now she's like, she was like, it's been a really spiritual journey. She's like, I actually feel like I am good at things now. And it's like, when she was saying that, it was so honest, and so like, it just reminded me of just all the years that I struggled with myself too, of like, I think maybe I'm good at things, but nobody likes me, my life sucks, blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, you know, in this awful pattern of like working a job, consuming.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
Interview on you've been doing this for 4 years, and so you're really a pioneer in this, and so you've seen these patterns over time. Do you think that a lot of people have like all of this inner negative chatter because of the Candida? Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish what you're saying. You notice what?
Well, I noticed that before, even though I meditate and I still do a lot of mental and emotional self-care. For example, if I'm out walking my dog, I think every car that drives past me is somebody's in there judging me, or like there's all this like negative, weird chatter before. And now I'm just out walking the dog and I'm thinking about, what kind of cool shit I'm going to make when I get back in the house, or like what poem I'm going to write, or what I'm going to start building or doing. It's like these clearer, happier, positive thoughts.
I'll
What's up
tell
with
you
that?
what I think. I'll tell you what I believe and what I think and what I've noticed is I think it has to do, one, the Candida makes a big impact on our mental health. I believe it makes a huge impact. So if and when we are already infected with Candida overgrowth, I think it really causes a lot of negative mental health impact, like anxiety, depression, negative thoughts, negative self-talk, paranoia, stress. All of those things just become part of this cycle. But I believe that it's extremely aggravated and amplified by also the sugar, the foods, the inflammation, the actual lack of health in the gut and the brain, like the lack of nutrients that's getting to the vital organs in the brain. And so I think that sometimes when people first get the Candida out, there's like one level of like awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you might notice is when you eat sugars. So what I've noticed is when I've then tried sugars, and I tried to eat, like, I think one time I tried to eat some orange, like an orange, which an orange has like 21 grams of sugar. It can have a lot of sugar in it. And I had like a sugar hangover the next day. This was like my first year of healing, and I just really noticed how intense it was. And I noticed that I was way more resistant to doing things the next few days. I was way lazier. I was way more like just kind of bratty, short-tempered or irritable with my partner, or like frustrated with things, or whatever. I just noticed that I was more that again, or whatever. And I was like, that's the food, that's the sugar. And for me, I had this aha moment because I was a formula raised baby, which meant high fructose corn syrup in 1978, 1979, 1980. It's like high fructose corn syrup for baby. And I remember watching the film Fed Up, and they were talking about how you have these neural pathways, right? It's like it's addiction. So of course, like if you have somebody who used to be a heroin addict, if you take them off of heroin and then you give them heroin 4 months later when they've been off, they could overdose. They could die from that, right? That's actually something that could happen because it's so intense. And so then you look at like sugar. So it's like I quit sugar, and then when I would try to take it, even in small amounts, for me, because I was a formula raised baby, which is basically like a sugar crack baby. I was a sugar crack baby. No wonder I had so many issues with food, right? Like all my life. But I think that I'm extra sensitive because of that, because of just the way that our brain is developed, giving a baby something 8 times more addictive than cocaine. And then all my life, I have had more of a struggle with those things. That's what I think. And so I feel the negative impact of too much sugars immediately. But as I've been healing, as my gut gets healthier, as my microbiome, my flora, everything, I'm noticing that I can be more and more flexible, and it's not giving me that immediate depression or anxiety or irritability, but I still notice it. So I think it's 1, the food, 2, the inflammation, 3, the Candida, and I think that it's a combination also of all of those things that kind of start to mess with us. But you might notice that too when you experiment with certain food. You might notice you feel more down after certain types of food, and it's chemical. We're chemical.
I'm laughing because like somewhere in the middle of the cleanse, I had a pity party and drank an entire margarita, and it was a bad day. I think it was Father's Day, and I would just sit at the end of the table like, nobody loves me or something, and I drank a margarita. Ooh, I paid for that. I felt bad. I felt so bad. It was really rough.
Especially right in the middle of your cleanse, because your liver's already dealing with toxins and stuff. So people ask if they can drink while they're cleansing, and it's like, well, it's not gonna. You're probably gonna get really hungover easily. You don't want to
Yes.
do it like the same way that you would if you're not detoxing. But so, what would you say to people who might be looking to kind of like up level their game? Like, as a trainer, are you telling people about this and recommending it because of how it influenced your performance level? And like, what would you say to people who might be on the fence?
Well, to anybody who's asked me what I've been doing, because it's very obvious. Like, I know people don't know me, they don't see me every day, but it's obvious. You can tell. Like, my waist looks really little and really tight, you know. So people are like, "What have you been doing?" There's been a couple trainers at the gym that asked me what I've been doing, and there was one guy who really perked up, you know, because he's a CrossFit competitor, but he has a hard time getting to the right weight because he's always dealing with inflammation. He started talking to me. He's like, I always have these sinus infections and like my stomach's always messed up. And he's like, I don't know, I'm always feel kind of anxious and stressed out all the time. And I was like, well, I sent him some links and let him research it. And he was like, oh shit. You know, kind of like I was like, whoa, this is for real. So I have been recommending it to people, athletes that should look better than they do, you know, because there's no way that somebody like me who runs 5 days a week, lifts weights and trains in MMA, there's no reason whatsoever that I should be walking around with 15 excess pounds of body weight, of fat and bloating. That's crazy. I remember I asked a trainer one time, actually, I know this is a little off subject, but I was like, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I can't seem to cut weight. And he was like, that's weird because you're doing this amount of cardio, you're doing this amount of conditioning, you're lifting weights. He's like, you shouldn't be dealing with any weight issues. That was like 3 years ago. You know, so now I do tell people, and anybody who comes into my bubble, they're going to hear about it one way or the other. I'm going to let them know because it's like, I'm not a salesperson and I like the idea of car shopping makes me nauseous. I don't like being sold, you know, and I think that's part of my, like, at first I was like, it's just kind of like, I don't know. And I think a lot of people feel that way. They're very skeptical and suspicious of everything outside in the world, you know. But this is like, because now that I've experienced it and I know that it works and I know that I'm having incredible results, I like want everybody to at least research it themselves and at least give it some consideration. And be open-minded about making some changes. As a fitness person, it comes down to the diet a lot. And you talk about the sugar addiction. People get really hung up on having to, or the idea of not eating bread is a huge one I hear, not eating ice cream and these really heavy carb, heavy sugar foods. It's addiction. It's like when you try to tell a smoker that, you know, hey man, you know, 7 years from now, that's going to catch up with you. You know, the people are very attached. And so I feel like what I want to say to people is that it's so important to think of this in terms of what you are, not what you're sacrificing, but what you're gaining and how you're rewarding yourself finally with honest, conscious living, eating with awareness, and giving your body what it needs. Because this is a machine. Like, this is the computer, this is the machine, in there somewhere is our spirit hanging out, you know. But like, if we're going to live on this planet and get things done and be our best selves, you can't ignore your body, not the outside of it or the inside of it. So we've got to let go of our attachment to food, to certain foods, because I'm going on and on. I get really excited about the nutrition. Diet, I think, is a bit intimidating for some people. You know, they're like bone broth and avocados and kimchi. Oh my God. But that food is so, it's funny to listen to people, but the food is so good. It is so yummy. I don't understand when people are opposed to it. It's like, have you even tried that? It's delicious.
Well, I think that, you know, it's like one of the things that you said earlier about how you look at certain foods now and it just doesn't even look like food to you anymore, and having that kind of like awakening. Even people who didn't expect that to happen, it's happened to. There's a guy, Chris, in an earlier interview. But in so many ways, I feel like I couldn't have gotten myself off of that cycle without having gotten the Candida out. I feel like that was the missing piece of the puzzle for me. What do you think for yourself?
I agree with you 100% because even as an athlete, I know better. You know, I know what to put in my body. But, you know, I might be, oh, here's showing up to work with my salad and eating caramel popcorn in the background. It's a real addiction, and it's so you know, you look back at it, or I look back at the situation, it's like, how honest with myself was I really being? You know, okay, so 60% of the time I'm eating quality food, but the other 40% of the time I'm feeding my sugar and carb addictions. So it's, I still looked at that stuff as food before I did the cleanse, and the cleanse is the only thing that really shifted my thinking, really shifted my feelings even towards food. You know, so yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Any words of encouragement to those who are getting into the mindset of cleansing, what you would share from your experience? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say to try to embrace it as an adventure. You know, and remember that it's a 45-day process, and 45 days is a month and a half. That is just 1 month and a half of a month. And to look at it like an adventure in learning how to cook some new things, learning how to be in your body in a new way, learn how to think thoughts in a new way, because you're going to have to expect that that's going to change, that you're going to feel very different. That part of the process, and try to let go of attachment to routine and certain foods. But I say have fun with it, you know, if at all possible, and look forward to healing and look forward to what's on the other side, because it's pretty damn awesome.
Oh, yay. Thank you, Lendsey, so much for coming on with me. And thank you to everybody who watches this video. All of the links are below, and our Facebook group is below. Lendsey's in the Facebook group. I love how active you are in the group. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and for just being open to telling your experience.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and thank you for you know, giving me an opportunity to try something new for my health that I hadn't tried before, and for being a pioneer in this. I mean, a lot of what you're sharing is because you've been through it already, and that's pretty brave and pretty awesome. So you're changing lives.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's happening. We're doing it. We're all healing. It's happening. I'm really grateful. It does feel like sometimes I'm like, we made it to the other side. We got birthed through the portal of like,
Yeah,
out of this particular part of this matrix. And I feel it is really important to be able to free ourselves from that toxic lifestyle that like kind of has a grip, can kind of get a grip on people, you know, got a grip on me. So, alrighty. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you again, everybody. And stay tuned for more video content. And also, hey, Lendsey, you want to promote your links? Lendsey's got an awesome Etsy shop. She makes beautiful repurposed stuff. So yeah, I saw that poster there. So if anyone wants to check out her homemade, look at those frames up there. Yay, point at those frames and boxes up top there. That's the kind of stuff that she makes. So check it out. Throw away beauty on Instagram.
That's all. Nickel. It's all magazine and stuff.
Yay. Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, love. Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.